to take news of him to Vraja, and thus relieve his parents and gopis of their misery caused by their separation from him. Riding on 8 chariots, Uddhava reached Vraja at sunset. He saw cows returning home to the cowherd village and the calves jumping here and there as their mothers followed slowly behind, weighed down by their heavy milk bag. The cowherd men and women were chanting the glories of Krishna and Balarama, and the village was attractively decorated with burning incense and rows of lamps. All this presented a scene of exceptional transcendental beauty. Nanda Maharaja welcomed Uddhava warmly into his home. The cowherd king then worshipped him as non different from Lord Vasudeva, fed him nicely, seated him comfortably upon a bed, and then inquired from him about the welfare of Vasudeva and his sons, Krishna and Balaram. Nanda asked, "Does Krishna still remember his friends, the village of Gokula and Govardhana Hill? He protected us from a forest fire, wind and rain, and many other disasters. By remembering his pastimes again and again, we are relieved of all karmic entanglement. And when we see the places marked by his lotus feet, our Krishna and Balaram have both descended directly from the spiritual world. Just see how they have so easily dispatched Kamsa, the wrestlers, the elephant, Kuvalayapita, and many other demons. As Nanda remembered Krishna's pastimes, his throat choked up with tears, and he could speak no further. Meanwhile, as Mother Yasoda heard her husband speak of Krishna, the intense love she felt for her son caused a flood of milk to pour from her breasts and a torrent of tears from her eyes. Wow. Seeing the super excellent affection Nanda and Yasoda had for Sri Krishna, Uddhava commented, "You two are indeed most glorious. One who has attained pure love for the supreme absolute truth in his human like form has nothing further to accomplish. Krishna and Balaram are present in the hearts of all living beings. Just as fire lies dormant within wood, these two lords are, and these two lords see all equally, having no particular friends or enemies. Free from the egoism and possessiveness, they have no father, mother, wife, or children, are never subject to birth, and have no material body. Only to enjoy spiritual happiness and deliver their saintly devotees do they appear by their own sweet will among various species of life, both high and low. Lord Krishna is not merely the son of you, O Nanda and Yasoda, but the son of all persons, as well as their mother and father. In fact, he is everyone's dearest relation, inasmuch as nothing that is seen or heard in the past, present, or future among the moving or non moving is independent of him. So it says, he is everyone's dearest relation, inasmuch as nothing that is seen or heard in the past, present, or future among the moving or non moving is independent of him. Nanda Maharaj and Uddhava passed the night talking about Krishna in this way. Then cowherd women performed their morning worship and began churning butter, singing the glories of Sri Krishna as they bus, businesslessly pulled the churning ropes. The sounds of churning and singing reverberated in the sky, cleansing the world of all inauspiciousness. When the sun rose, the gopis saw Uddhava's chariot at the edge of the cowherd village, and they thought that Akrura might have returned. But just then, Uddhava finished his morning duties and presented himself before them. Text number 1. Sukadeva Goswami said, the supremely intelligent Uddhava was the best counselor of the Vrishni dynasty, a beloved friend of Lord Sri Krishna, and a direct disciple of Brihaspati. Excuse me. Purport. The Acharyas give various reasons why Lord Krishna sent Uddhava to Vrindavan. The Lord had promised the residents of Vrindavan, Ayasye, I shall return. Bhagavad Gita 10.39.35. Also, in the previous chapter, Lord Krishna promised Nanda Maharaj, Drastum Esyama, we will come back to see you and Mother Yasoda. Bhagavatam 10.45.23. At the same time, the Lord could not break his promise to Sri Vasudeva and Mother Devaki to finally spend some time with them after they had suffered for so many years. Therefore, the Lord decided to send his intimate representative to Vrindavana in his place. The question may be asked, why did Krishna not invite Nanda and Yasoda to visit him in Mathura? According to Srila Jiva Goswami, for the Lord to have exchanged loving feelings with Nanda and Yasoda in the same place and at the same time that he was exchanging them with Vasudeva and Devaki would have created an awkward situation in the Lord's pastimes. Thus, Krishna did not invite Nanda and Yasoda to stay with him in Mathura. The residents of Vrindavana had their own way of understanding Krishna, and their feelings could not have been appropriately expressed on a regular basis in the kingly atmosphere of Mathura. Sri Uddhava is described in this verse as Buddhi Satama, the most intelligent, and thus he could expertly pacify the residents of Vrindavana who were feeling much intense separation from Lord Krishna. Then, upon his return to Mathura, Uddhava would describe to all the members of the Vrishni dynasty the extraordinary pure love he had seen in Vrindavan. Indeed, the love the cowherd men and gopis felt for Krishna was far beyond anything the Lord's other devotees had ever experienced. And by hearing about that love, all the Lord's devotees would increase their faith and devotion. Very nice, very nice. As stated in the third canto by the Lord himself, no davo davo api man yuna. Uddhava is not even slightly different from me, resembling Krishna so much. Uddhava was the perfect person to carry out the Lord's mission in Vrindavan. In fact, Sri Harivilas states that Uddhava is the son of Vasudeva's brother, Devabhaga. Uddhav have Ud, let's see, Yud Dahavo Deva Bhagasya Mahabhaga Suto Bhavat. In other words, he is a cousin brother of Sri Krishna's. Text number what? Let me see. Text number 2. The Supreme Lord Hari, who relieves the distress of all who surrender to him, once took the hand of his fully devoted, dearmost friend Uddhava and addressed him as follows. Text 3. Lord Krishna said, Dear gentle Uddhava, go to Raja and give pleasure to our parents, and also relieve the gopis suffering in their separation from me by giving them my message. Text number 4. The minds of those gopis are always absorbed in me, and their very lives are ever devoted to me. For my sake, they have abandoned everything related to their bodies, renouncing ordinary happiness in this life, as well as religious duties necessary for such happiness in the next life. I alone am their dearmost beloved, and indeed their very self. Therefore, I take it upon myself to sustain them in all circumstances. Very nice. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Here the Lord explains why he wants to send a special message to the gopis. According to the Vaishnava Acharyas, the word daihika, related to the body, refers to husbands, children, homes, and so on. The gopis loved Krishna so intensely that they could think of nothing else, since Sri Krishna maintains ordinary devotees engaged in sadhana bhakti, devotional service in practice. He will certainly maintain the gopis, his most exalted devotees. Okay. Text 5. My dear Uddhava, for those women of Gokula, I am the most cherished object of love. Thus, when they remember me, who am so far away, they are overwhelmed by the anxiety of separation. Very nice. Purport. Whatever is dear to us becomes an object of our possessiveness. Ultimately, the most dear object is our very soul, or ourself. Thus, things in a favorable relationship to ourself also become dear to us, and we try to possess them. According to Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti, among the countless millions of such dear things, Sri Krishna is the most dear of all. even dearer than one's own self. The gopis had realized this fact, and thus they were stunned in separation from the Lord because of their intense love for him. Although they would have given up their lives, they were kept alive by the Lord's transcendental potency. That's very good. Text 6. Simply because I have promised to return to them, my fully devoted cowherd girlfriends struggle to maintain their lives somehow or other. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti, although the gopis of Vrindavan were apparently married, their husbands actually had no contact whatsoever with their supremely attractive qualities of form, taste, fragrance, and sound, and touch, and so on. Rather, their husbands rarely presumed, these are our wives, in other words, by Lord Krishna's spiritual potency. The gopis existed entirely for his, meaning Krishna's pleasure. And Krishna loved them in the mood of paramour. In fact, the gopis were manifestations of Krishna's internal nature, his supreme pleasure potency, and on the spiritual platform, they attracted the Lord by their pure love. Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda, Lord Krishna's parents in Vrindavana, had also attained a most exalted state of love for Krishna, and they too could barely maintain their lives in his absence. Thus, Uddhava would also give special attention to them. Now, that's very nice. Text 7. Sri Sukha Uvacha. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus addressed, O king, Uddhava respectfully accepted his master's message, mounted his chariot, and set off for Nanda Gokula. Text 8. The fortunate Uddhava reached Nanda Maharaj's pastures just as the sun was setting, and since the returning cows and other animals were raising dust with their hooves, his chariot passed unnoticed. Text 9 to 13. Gokula resounded on all sides with the sounds of bulls in root fighting with one another for fertile cows, with the mooing of cows burdened by their udders, chasing after their calves, with the noise of milking and of the white calves, jumping here and there, with the loud reverberation of flute playing, and with the singing of all auspicious deeds of Krishna and Balarama by the cowherd men and women who made the village resplendent with their wonderfully ornamented attire. The cowherds' home in Gokula appeared most charming with their abundant paraphernalia for worship of the sacrificial fire, the sun, unexpected guests, the cows, the brahmanas, the forefathers, and the demigods. On all sides lay the flowering forest, echoing with flocks of birds and swarms of bees, and beautified by its lakes, crowded with swans, karandava ducks, and bowers of lotuses. Wow. Purport. Although Gokula was merged in grief because of separation from Lord Krishna, the Lord expanded his internal potency to cover that particular manifestation of Raja and allow Uddhava to see the normal bustle and joy of Raja at sunset. That's very nice. Soon as Uddhava arrived in Nanda Maharaj's home, Nanda came forward to meet him. The cowherd king embraced him in great happiness and worshipped him as none different from Lord Vasudeva. The Lord Vasudeva, sorry. Purport. Uddhava looked just like Nanda's son Krishna and gave pleasure to anyone who saw him. Thus, though Nanda was absorbed in the thoughts of separation from Krishna, when he saw Uddhava coming toward his house, he became aware of external events and eagerly went out to embrace his exalted visitor. Text 15. After Uddhava had eaten first class food, been seated comfortably on a bed, and been relieved of his fatigue by a foot massage and other means, Nanda inquired from him as follows. Purport. Srila Jiva Goswami mentions that Nanda had a servant massage Uddhava's feet, since Uddhava was Nanda's nephew. Okay. Text 16. Nanda Maharaj said, "My dear, most fortunate one, does the son of Sura fare well? Now that he is free and has rejoined his children and other relatives?" Good question. Text 17. Fortunately, because of his own sins, the sinful Kamsa has been killed. Oh, bravo. Along with all his brothers, he always hated the saintly and righteous Yadus. Well, goodbye for Kamsa. Text 18. Does Krishna remember us? Does he remember his mother and his friends and well-wishers? Does he remember the cowherds and their village of Raja, of which he is the master? Does he remember the cow, Vrindavana forest, and the Govardhana hill? Wow. Text 19. Will Govinda return even once to see his family? If he ever does, we may then glance upon his beautiful face with its beautiful eyes, nose, and smile. Purport. Now that Krishna had become a prince in the great city of Mathura, Nanda had lost hope that he would come back to live in the simple cowherd village of Vrindavana. But he hoped against hope that Krishna would come back at least once to visit the simple cowherd folk who had raised him from birth. Text 20. We were saved from the forest fire, the wind and rain, the bull and serpent demon, from all such insurmountable, deadly dangers by that very great soul, Krishna. As we remember the wonderful deeds Krishna performed, his playful sidelong glances, his smiles, and his words, O Uddhava, we forgot all our material engagements. Text 22. When we see the places where Mukunda enjoyed his sporting pastime, the river, hill, and forest, he decorated with his feet. Our mind becomes totally absorbed in him. Text 23. In my opinion, Krishna and Balarama must be two exalted demigods who have come to this planet to fulfill some great mission of the demigods. Such was foretold by Garga Rishi. Text 24. After all, Krishna and Balarama killed Kamsa, who was as strong as 10,000 elephants. as well as the wrestlers Chanura and Mustika, and the elephant Kuvalayapita. They killed them all sportingly, as easily as a lion disposes of small animals. Purport. Here, Nanda means to say, not only
Lomahi.
Bhagamuni declare that these boys are divine, but just see what they have done. Everyone is talking about it. Text 25. With the ease of a royal elephant breaking a stick, Krishna broke a powerful giant bow 3 talas long. He also held a mountain aloft for 7 days with just one hand. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. According to Acharya Vishwanatha, a tala, or palm tree, is a measurement of about 60 hastas, or 90 feet. Thus, the great bow Krishna broke was 270 feet long. Wow, 270 feet long. It's amazing. Text 26. Now, just imagine a bow, an arrow. It's 270 feet long. My God. Text 26. Here in Vrindavana, Krishna and Balarama easily destroyed demons like Pralamba, Denuka, Arista, Srinavrata, and Baka, who had themselves defeated both demigods and other demons. Text 27. Sukadeva Goswami said, thus intensely remembering Krishna again and again, Nanda Maharaja, his mind completely attached to the Lord, felt extreme anxiety and fell silent, overcome by the strength of his love. Text 28. As Mother Yasoda heard the descriptions of her son's activities, she poured out her tears, and milk flowed from her breast out of love. Wow, that's a wonderful statement. From purport, from the very day that Krishna had left for Mathura, Mother Yasoda's uh, thought counsel, Mother Yasoda, though counseled and consoled by hundreds of men and women, could see nothing but the face of her son. She kept her eyes closed to everyone else and cried constantly. Thus, she could not recognize Uddhava, treat him with parental affection, ask him any questions, or give him any message for her son. She was simply overwhelmed with love for Krishna. Wow, unbelievable, wonderful. Text 29. Uddhava then joyfully addressed Nanda Maharaja, having clearly seen the supreme loving attraction he and Yasoda felt for Krishna, the supreme personality of Godhead. Purport. If Uddhava had seen Nanda and Yasoda actually suffering, he would not have reacted with joy. But in fact, all emotions on the spiritual platform are transcendental bliss. The so-called anguish of the pure devotees is another form of loving ecstasy. This was clearly seen by Uddhava, and thus he spoke as follows. Text 30. Shri Uddhava Vacha. Shri Uddhava said, O respectful Nanda, certainly you and Mother Yasoda are the most praiseworthy persons in the entire world. Since you have developed such a loving attitude toward Lord Narayana, the spiritual master of all living beings. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Understanding Nanda's mood as expressed by his statement, Manye Krishnam Cha Ramam Cha Praptav Iha Surotamo. I think Krishna and Rama must be two exalted demigods. Uddhava here referred to Krishna as Lord Narayana. Wow, but it's correct. Text 31. These two lords, Mukunda and Balaram, are each the seed and womb of the universe, the creator and his creative potency. They enter the hearts of living beings and control their conditioned awareness. They are the primeval supreme. 1 second. Yeah. The word vilakshana means either distinctly perceiving or confused, depending on how the prefix V is understood in context. In the case of enlightened souls, vilakshana means perceiving the correct distinction between the body and the soul. And thus, Lord Krishna, as indicated by the word isate, guides the spiritually advancing soul. The other meaning of vilakshana, confused or bewildered, clearly applies to those who have not understood the difference between the soul and the body, or the distinction between the individual soul and the supreme soul. Such bewildered living beings do not go back home, back to Godhead, to the eternal spiritual world, but rather achieve temporary destinations according to the law of nature. It is understood from all Vaishnava literature that Sri Rama, Balarama, here accompanying Lord Krishna, is non-different from him, meaning non-different than Krishna, being his plenary expansion. The Lord is one, yet he expands himself, and thus Lord Balarama in no way compromises the principle of monotheism. Monotheism. Monotheism means being the same as so just like Krishna is there, but Balaram is also non-different than Krishna. That's why it's the principle of monotheism, that both Krishna and Balarama are one, although they are acting as two. Anyone, even a person in an impure state, who absorbs his mind in him for just a moment at the time of death, burns up all the traces of sinful reactions and immediately attains the supreme transcendental destination in a pure spiritual form as effulgent as the sun. You too have surrendered, you too have rendered exceptional loving service to him, Lord Narayana, the supersoul of all, and the cause of all existence, the great soul who, although the original cause of everything, has a human-like form. What pious deeds could still be required of you? Good question. Text 34. Infallible Krishna, the Lord of the devotees, will soon return to Braja to satisfy his parents. Purport. Here Uddhava begins to deliver Lord Krishna's message. Text 35. Having killed Kamsa, the enemy of all the Yadus, in the wrestling arena, Krishna will now surely fulfill his promise to you by coming back. Text 36. O most fortunate ones, do not lament. You will see Krishna again very soon. He is present in the hearts of all living beings, just as fire lies dormant in wood. That's a wonderful statement. Purport. Uddhava understood that Nanda and Yasoda were very impatient to see Krishna, and thus he reassured them that Sri Krishna would come soon. Okay, text number 37. For him, no one is especially dear or despicable, superior or inferior. He is not indifferent to anyone. He is free from all desire for respect and yet gives respect to all others. Wow, what a wonderful person. Text 38. He has no mother, no father, no wife, children, or other relatives. No one is related to him, and yet no one is a stranger to him. He has no material body and no birth. That is Krishna. He has no work to do in this world that would oblige him to take birth in pure, impure, or mixed species of life, yet to enjoy his pastimes and deliver his saintly devotees, he manifests himself. Text 40. Although beyond the three modes of material nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance, the transcendental Lord accepts association with them as his play. Thus, the unborn Supreme Lord utilizes the material modes to create, maintain, and destroy. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. As stated in Brahma Samhita 2.134, Lokavat Lila Kaivalyam, the Lord performs his spiritual pastimes as if he were a resident of this world. Although the Lord does not favor or abuse anyone, he still observes happiness and suffering in this world. The Gita 13.22 states, Karanam guna sangasya. We desire to associate with various qualities of material nature, and thus we must accept the consequences. The Lord provides the field of material nature in which we exercise our free will. Foolish non-devotees not only attempt to cheat the Lord by trying to exploit his nature, but when they suffer, the reaction they blame, when they suffer the reaction, they blame God for their own misdeeds. That's so true. This is the shameless position of those who are envious of God. Wow. Text 41. Just as a person who is whirling around perceives the ground to be turning, one who is affected by false ego thinks himself the doer, when actually only his mind is acting. Wow. Amazing statement. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti gives a parallel idea. Although our happiness and distress are caused by our own interaction with the material qualities, we perceive the Lord to be their cause. Text 42. The Supreme Lord Hari is certainly not your son alone. Rather, being the Lord, he is the Son, the soul, father, and mother of everyone. Wow. Text 43. Nothing can be said to exist independent of Lord Achyuta. Nothing heard or seen. Nothing in the past, present, or future. Nothing moving or non-moving or unmoving, great or small. He indeed is everything, for he is the supreme soul. Wow. Purport. Sri Uddhava is relieving the distress of Nanda and Yasoda by bringing them to a more philosophical plane. He is explaining that since Lord Krishna is everything and is within everything, his pure devotees are always with him. Let's move it forward. Text 44. While Krishna's messenger continued speaking with Nanda, the night ended, O king. The women of the cowherd village rose from bed and lighting lamps, worshiped their household deities, and worshiped their household deities. Then they began churning the yogurt into butter. Oh, wow. Text 45. As they pulled on the churning ropes with their bangled arms, the women of Raja shone with the splendor of their jewels, which reflected the lamp's light. Their hips, breasts, and necklaces moved about, and their faces, anointed with reddish kumkuma, glowed radiantly with the luster of their earrings reflecting from their cheeks. Text 46. As the ladies of Raja loudly sang the glories of lotus-eyed Krishna, their songs blended with the sound of their churning, ascended to the sky and dissipated all inauspiciousness in every direction. Wow. Purport. The gopis were absorbed in thought of Krishna and were thus feeling his presence. Therefore, they could joyfully sing. Wonderful. Text 47. When the godly sun had risen, the people of Raja noticed the golden chariot in front of Nanda Maharaj's doorway. Who does this belong to? They asked. Text 48. Perhaps Akrura has returned, he who fulfilled Kamsa's desire by taking lotus-eyed Krishna to Mathura. Purport. The gopis angrily spoke this statement. Yeah, they were upset with this Akrura who took Krishna away from them. Text 49. Is he going to use our flesh to offer funeral oblations for his master, who was so satisfied with his service? As the women were speaking in this way, Uddhava appeared, having finished his early morning duties. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. This verse reveals the bitter disappointment the gopis felt when Akrura took Krishna away. However, they will be pleasantly surprised to see that the unexpected guest is Uddhava. Thus end the purports of the humble servants of His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, to the 10th canto, 46th chapter of the Srimad Bhagavatam, entitled Uddhava Visits Vrindavana. Hare Krishna,
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare.
Hare Ram, Hare Ram,
Ram, Ram,
Ram
Ram,
Hare
Hare.
Hare. Chapter 47. The Song of the Bee. Yeah, the bees are always around devotees in Vrindavana. This chapter describes how Uddhava, on the order of Lord Sri Krishna, delivered the Lord's message to the gopis, consoled them, and then returned to Mathura. When the young maidens of Raja saw lotus-eyed Uddhava, who wore a yellow garment and attractive earrings, they were astonished at how much he resembled Krishna, thinking, "Who is this?" They approached and encircled him. When they realized that Krishna must have sent him, they brought him to a secluded place where he could speak to them confidentially. Okay. The gopis then began to remember the pastimes they had enjoyed with Sri Krishna, and putting aside all ordinary proper prop, uh, propriety, yeah, all propriety and shyness, they loudly wept. One gopi, while deeply meditating on her association with Krishna, noticed a bumblebee before her. Imagining the bee to be a messenger from him, meaning Krishna, she said, "Just as bees wander among various flowers, Sri Krishna has abandoned the young girls of Braja and developed affection for other women." The gopi continued to speak in this way, contrasting her own supposed ill fortune to her rival lover's good fortune, all the while glorifying the names, forms, qualities, and pastimes of Lord Krishna. She then declared that although they have abandoned the gopis, they could not possibly stop remembering him for even a moment. Uddhava tried to console the damsels of Braja, who were so anxious to see Krishna once again. Uddhava explained, while ordinary persons must perform many pious deeds to qualify as servants of Lord Krishna, you simply cowherd girls are so extremely fortunate that the Lord has favored you with the very highest degree of pure devotion for him. Uddhava then related to them the Lord's message. Quoting Lord Krishna, Uddhava said, "I am the supreme soul and supreme shelter of all. By my potency," that is what Uddhava was saying that Krishna has said. "I am the supreme soul and supreme shelter of all. By my potencies, I create, maintain, and destroy the cosmos. I am indeed most dear to you, gopis, but to increase your attraction for me and intensify your remembrance, I left you. After all, when a woman's beloved is far away, she fixes her mind upon him constantly. By incessantly remembering me, you are sure to regain my association without delay." Wonderful. The gopis then asked Uddhava, "Is Krishna happy now that Kamsa is dead? And he can enjoy the company of his family members and the women of Mathura? Does he still remember all the pastimes he enjoyed with us, such as the rasa dance? Will Sri Krishna once again appear before us and give us ecstasy, just as Lord Indra, with his rain, gives life back to the forests, aggrieved by the summer heat? Although we know that the greatest happiness comes from reunion, from renunciation, we simply cannot stop hoping to attain Krishna. For the marks of his lotus feet are still present throughout the land of Raja, reminding us of his graceful gait, in other words, the way he walks, generous smiles, and gentle talk. By all these, our hearts have been stolen away. Beautiful. Having said this, the gopis loudly chanted Lord Krishna's names, calling out, O Govinda, please come and destroy our suffering. Uddhava then pacified the gopis with statements that dispelled their pain of separation, and they in turn worshipped him as non-different from Sri Krishna. Uddhava stayed in the district of Raja for several months, giving pleasure to the residents by reminding them about Krishna in various ways. Very satisfied at seeing the extent of the gopis' love for the Lord, he declared, these cowherd girls have perfected their lives by coming to the platform of unalloyed love for Krishna. Indeed, even Lord Brahma is inferior to them. Oh, wow. The goddess of fortune herself, who always resides on Krishna's chest, could not get the same mercy as that which the gopis obtained during the Rasa dance, when Krishna embraced their necks with his mighty arm. What then to speak of other women? Indeed, I would consider myself most fortunate to take birth as even a bush or creeper that would sometimes be touched by the dust of these gopis' lotus feet. Wow, what a fantastic statement that is. Finally, Uddhava entreated Nanda Maharaja and the other cowherd men for permission to go back to Mathura. Nanda presented him with many gifts and prayed to Uddhava for the ability to always remember Krishna. Returning to Mathura, Uddhava offered Balarama, Krishna, and King Ugrasena the gifts sent by Nanda Maharaja and described to them everything he had experienced in Raja. Wow. Okay, text 1 and 2. We're almost finished. Sukadeva Goswami said, the young women of Raja became astonished upon seeing Lord Krishna's servant, who had long arms, whose eyes resembled a newly grown lotus, who wore a yellow garment and a lotus garland, and whose lotus-like face glowed with brightly polished earrings. Who is this handsome man? The gopis asked. Where has he come from, and whom does he serve? He is wearing Krishna's clothes and ornaments. Saying this, the gopis eagerly crowded around Uddhava, whose shelter was the lotus feet of Lord Uttama Shloka, Sri Krishna. Text 3. Bowing their heads in humility, the gopis duly honored Uddhava with their shy, smiling glances and pleasing words. They took him to a quiet place, seated him comfortably, and began to question him, for they recognized him to be a messenger from Krishna, the master of the goddess of fortune. Purport. The chaste gopis were enlivened to see that a messenger had come from Krishna. As Uddhava will discover during his stay in Vrindavana, the unique gopis could not think of anything but their beloved Krishna. Text 4. The gopis said, "We know that you are the personal servant of Krishna, the chief of the yadus, and that you have come here on the order of your good master, who desires to give pleasure to his parents." Text 5. We see nothing else he might consider worth remembering in these cow pastures of Raja. Indeed, the bonds of affection for one's family members are difficult to break, even for a sage. The friendship shown toward others, those who are not family members, is motivated by personal interest, and thus it is a pretense that lasts only until one's purpose is fulfilled. Such friendship is just like the interest men take in women or bees in flowers. People. So you see, the gopis are uh, they're not very uh, much experience. They're not very much uh, feeling that Krishna will stay with them. That's why they're talking like this. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti Thakura explains here that the attractive women, like flowers, possess beauty, fragrance, tenderness, charm, and so on. And as bees drink only once of a flower's nectar, and then leave it for another, fickle men abandon beautiful and devoted women to pursue other pleasures. This tendency is condemned here by the gopis, who gave their hearts completely to Sri Krishna. Yeah, so some men will come and spend a short period of time with women. The women fall in love with them, and then they leave. That's what they're saying. The gopis wanted only to exhibit their charms for Lord Krishna's pleasure. And in the pain of separation, they questioned the motives of his friendship with them. These are the transcendental pastimes of the Lord. Both Lord Krishna and the gopis are completely liberated souls engaged in spiritual loving affairs. By contrast, our so called loving affairs, being perverted reflections of the perfect loving relationships in the spiritual world, are polluted with lust, greed, and pride, and so on. Like all liberated souls, the gopis, and certainly Lord Krishna, so are eternally free of these lower qualities, and their intense loving affairs are motivated exclusively by unalloyed devotion. Harivilas, wonderful statement. Text 7. Are we finished? Okay, we'll do one more.
Yeah.
Prostitutes abandon a penniless man, subjects an incompetent king, students their teacher once they have finished their education, and priests a man who has remunerated them for a sacrifice. Text 8. Birds abandon a tree when its fruits are gone. Guests a house after they have eaten. Animals a forest that has burnt down. And a lover the woman he has enjoyed, even though she remains attracted to him. Yeah, so those are great statements. How different people sometimes just enjoy someone and then give up their association. Thus speaking, the gopis, whose words bodies, and minds were fully dedicated to Lord Govinda. Put aside all their regular work now that Krishna's messenger, Sri Uddhava, had arrived among them. Constantly remembering the activities their beloved Krishna had performed in his childhood and youth, they sang about them and cried without shame. Purport. The word Valyayo here indicates that ever since their childhood, the gopis had been completely in love with Krishna. That's wonderful. Thus, even though social custom dictated that they not reveal their love to others, they forgot all external considerations and openly wept before Krishna's messenger, Uddhava. Text 11. One of the gopis, while meditating on her previous association with Krishna, saw a honeybee before her and imagined it to be a messenger sent by her beloved, meaning Krishna. Thus she spoke as follows. And she's talking to the bee. Srimati Radharani is referred to in this verse as Kachit, a certain gopi, to establish that this particular gopi is in fact Srimati Radharani. Srila Jiva Goswami quotes the following verses from the Agni Purana. At dawn, the gopis inquired from Krishna's servant Uddhava about the Lord's pastimes and recreation. Only Srimati Radharani, immersed in thought of Krishna, withdrew her interest in the talks. Then Radha, who was worshipped by the residents of her Vrindavana village, spoke up in the midst of her girlfriends. Her words were full of pure transcendental knowledge and expressed the ultimate portion of the Vedas. In the Bhagavad Gita 15.15, Lord Krishna states, Vedaista sarver aham eva vidya. By all the Vedas I am to be known. To know Krishna is to love Krishna. And thus Radharani, by her own example and words, revealed her supreme love for the Lord. Having quoted the above verses from the Agni Purana, Srila Jiva Goswami also quotes the following from the Nrsimha Tapani Upanishad, Purva Kanda 2.4. Yam sarve deva namanti mumukshavo brahma vadinas. Purva Kanda 2.4. And then Yam sarve deva namanti mumukshavo brahma vadinas cha. All the demigods and all the transcendental philosophers who desire liberation bow down to the Supreme Lord. End of quote. We should follow suit. In other words, all the gopis should follow in the footsteps of this of Krishna. Text 12. The gopis said, O honeybee, O friend of a cheater, that's Krishna, don't touch my feet with your whiskers, which are smeared with the kumkuma that rubbed onto Krishna's garland when it was crushed by the breasts of a rival lover. Let Krishna satisfy the women of Mathura. One who sends a messenger like you will certainly be ridiculed in the Yadu's assembly. Purport, question of Prabhupada. Srimati Radharani, indirectly chastised Krishna by chastising the bumblebee, which she took for his messenger. She addressed the bumblebee as Madhupa, one who drinks the nectar of flowers, and she addressed Krishna as Madhupati, the Lord of Madhu. Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti points out that this and the following 9 verses exemplify 10 kinds of impulsive speech spoken by a lover. This verse illustrates the qualities of Prajalpa as described by Srila Rupa Goswami in the following verse from this Ujjvala Nilamani. Asur yersya mada yuja yo vadir rana mudraya priyasya kosha ludvara prajalpa sa tu krityate. Prajalpa is speech that denigrates the tactlessness of one's lover with expressions of disrespect. It is spoken in a mood of envy, jealousy, and pride. Sri Vishwanatha Chakravarti points out that the word kitava bandho expresses envy. The phrase from sapatanya to na, jealousy, the phrase ma, sprisa, angry rim, pride, and the phrase from vahatu to prashadam, disrespect, while the phrase from yadu, sadasi, to the end of the verse decries Krishna's tactless treatment of Radharani. Oh, heavy duty statements here. Text 13. After making us drink the enhancing nectar of his lips only once, Krishna suddenly abandoned us, just as you might quickly abandon some flowers. How is it, then, that goddesses Padma willingly serves his lotus feet? Alas, the answer must certainly be that her mind has been stolen away by his deceitful words. In this verse, Srimati Radharani continues to compare Sri Krishna to the bumblebee, and in her distress, she states that the reason the goddess of fortune was constantly devoted to his, meaning Krishna's lotus feet, must be that she has been fooled by Krishna's promises. According to Srila Vishwanatha Chakravarti, this statement of Srimati Radharani's illustrates Parijalpa, and that is as described in the Sri Ujjvala Nilamani, 14.184. Prajalpa is the speech which, through various devices, shows one's own cleverness by exposing the mercilessness, duplicity, unreliability, and so on of one's Lord. Wow, that's amazing. Parijampa is that speech which, through various devices, shows one's own cleverness by exposing the mercilessness, duplicity, unreliability, and so on of one's Lord. That's an amazing statement. That, of course, the gopis are saying that Krishna is like that. Oh, B, why do you sing here so much about the Lord of the Yadus in front of us homeless people? These topics are old news to us. Better you sing about that friend of Arjuna, in front of his new girlfriend, the burning desire in his breast he has now relieved. Those ladies will surely give you the charity you are begging. Okay, I think our time is over.
Yeah, 7:40.
All right, let me just write this perfect. Let's finish this perfect.
Yeah, sure.
With the words, Agrihanam, Agrato na. Radharani laments that even though she and the other gopis gave up their home to love Krishna in a conjugal relationship, the Lord left them and became a prince in the great royal city of the Yadus. Besides meaning Arjuna the victor, the word Vijaya also directly indicates Sri Krishna, who is always victorious in his endeavors, and besides meaning old news, the word Puranam also indicates that Sri Krishna is glorified in the ancient Vedic scriptures of that name. In this verse, we observe in Radharani's mood the seed of jealous anger, which arises from an apparent disdain for Krishna, accompanied by a sarcastic sidelong glance directed toward him. Thus this verse fits the following description of Vijalpa from the Ujjwala Nilamani, 14.186. According to learned authorities, Vijalpa is sarcastic speech that is addressed to the killer of Aga and that openly expresses jealousy while at the same time hinting at one's angry pride. Wow, that's amazing. Okay, I think we'll stop right there and continue tomorrow. According to the learned authorities, Vijalpa is sarcastic speech that is addressed to the killer of Aga and that openly expresses jealousy while at the same time hinting at one's angry pride. only people who are madly in love with Krishna can explain these things and experience these things because they're badly in love with Krishna. They have no other thought but to serve Krishna. And Krishna is increasing their ecstasy by his sometimes loving them and sometimes not giving them much attention. Okay, so we'll stop right there. Are there any questions or comments? All right, my dear devotees, all glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Ki Jai.
So we just finished reading about Uddhava's visits. Uddhava visits Vrindavana. I think that's what we did. Yeah. And now we're going to go on to text 15 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, my dear devotees. Have a good day today. And meditate on some of these wonderful pastimes of Krishna and the gopis. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare
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 Ram.
Ram,
Hare Ram.
Ram
Ram Ram.
Hare Hare.
Voice of Srila Prabhupada.
Ki Jai.
Thank you very much.